So this is the second video of the Advent calendar. Last week we took a closer look at Heejin's Vivid MV and the connections to the Alice in Wonderland story. And today we will take a closer look at Haseul's Let Me In MV and the story of the Little Prince. And this time I also added a really interesting theory to the mix that could explain how Vivie was trapped in Eden and how she escaped, so stay tuned. So in order for us to compare the two, let me just quickly summarize the story of the Little Prince. It has been some time since I last read the story for myself, so I also cross-referenced my knowledge of the story with summaries I found online. So, the narrator of the story is a pilot who crash-landed in a desert. As a child, he learned that adults like imagination, and this is put to the test when he meets a little prince in the desert. The small boy asks him to draw a sheep for him, and the pilot does so. The little prince tells him that he is from outer space and lives on a small planet which the pilot thinks to be the asteroid B612. Since the pilot is stuck in the desert, they spend a lot of time talking, and the prince tells the pilot about his life on a small planet. The planet is not even the size of a house, and the prince tells the pilot about a rose that grows on the planet. The prince really loves her, but the rose demands a lot from him and is ungrateful, so the prince has to leave his planet behind to get away from her. Now the prince talks about his travels after leaving the rose behind. He visited 6 different asteroids, one with a king who has no underlings before the prince arrives. Then he meets a self-admiring man who only wants praise, a drunk man who drinks to forget about the shame that his drinking causes him. Next, a greedy businessman who wants to own these stores, so he counts, catalogs and categorizes them instead of taking in the beauty of the stars around him. Now he meets a lamplighter on a planet that is so small that the whole day runs by in just a minute. He lights a lamp each evening and puts it out each morning, which means that he endlessly has to put it out and then light it on again. Finally, he meets a geographer who has no knowledge of his own planet and has never seen the places he records by asking explorers about where they're from. He tells the little prince to visit Earth. The pilot thinks that the 6 people the prince met pretty much sum up the adults on Earth: 111 kings, 7,000 geographers, 900,000 businessmen, and so on. Since the prince landed in the desert, he presumes that Earth is uninhabited before he meets a yellow snake. The snake tells him that he has the power to return the little prince home. Then the prince meets a desert flower who tells him that she has only met a handful of men and that they lack roots. The boy now climbs the highest mountain he had ever seen and hopes to be able to overlook the whole earth, but he could only see the enormous, desolate desert ahead. Then he comes across a rose garden and he is sad at the thought that his rose lied to him about her uniqueness. And that would make him a lousy prince, since he lives on a planet that has but one measly flower and other than that is desolate. Then the little prince meets a fox that wants to be tamed, and he convinces the prince that if he were to tame the fox, they would have a special and unique bond, which would then make them a source of happiness for one another. But on the downside, their connection could cause them sadness and loneliness when they're apart from each other, leaving them longing to be close to one another again. Through this, the little prince learns that his rose is indeed unique and special, since he, in a way, tamed her. Unlike all the other roses he met, him and his rose have a bond strong enough to make the prince want to return home. Just like the fox told the little prince, him being apart from his special one causes him sadness and loneliness, leaving him longing to be close to his rose again. The fox now leaves him again and tells him about one last secret: that you can see important things with your heart and not your eyes. Next, the prince meets 2 new people. One is a railway switchman, telling the prince that the grown-ups rush from place to place and never really enjoy the moment. They were never satisfied with where they were, but the children, on the other hand, they looked out the windows, taking in their surroundings instead of worrying where they might end up. Then he meets a merchant that sells pills, which makes it unnecessary for you to drink water for 1 whole week. saving you the time you would spend drinking water. While the pilot and the prince were traveling through the desert and they talked about the prince's travels, their water ran out. The prince grew sad of retelling his story and longs to return home to his flower. It had been 8 days since the pilot crashed into the desert. They miraculously find a well with water, and the prince voices his wishes of returning home and his concerns for the well-being of his flower to the snake. The little prince can only return home by letting the snake bite him, and the boy assures the pilot that he will not die, but instead leave his body behind to return home. From now on, the pilot can look upon the stars and know that his friend is up there. The prince doesn't want his newfound friend to see his descent, and so he walks away and lets the snake bite him. But the next morning, the pilot is unable to find the body of the little prince, and is finally able to repair his plane. He leaves the desert behind, and the story resumes 6 years later. The pilot wonders if the prince returned home, and if the sheep he drew for him ate his flower. He wonders if anyone else will ever come across the little prince, and so he asks the reader to contact him in case anyone would ever come across the little prince. The story of the little prince has a similar outcome to the story of Alice in Wonderland. Did the pilot actually meet the little prince, or did he just imagine him from dying of thirst? In the end, there are 2 different ways to look at the story. One way would be the little prince is just a figment of the pilot's imagination that is there to help him overcome his struggles of surviving in the desert. The pilot learned as a child that adults like imagination, and then he meets the little prince in the desert. This contrast between other grown-ups and the pilot, as well as the grown-ups the prince meets, implies that the pilot is something special and unique in the world of grown-ups that lack imagination. He, just like the flower, seems insignificant, but is something special through his connection to his imagination and childlike nature that is symbolized by the little prince. The other way to look at it would mean that the little prince is real, and that the pilot did in fact meet a boy from outer space. This would imply that the pilot is something special as well, since he is the only grown-up the prince met that didn't talk about himself but let the boy tell a story. He is the only one that really cares about him and his story, and when asked to help the prince by drawing a sheep, instead of asking why and refusing, he just does so to help the boy, and afterwards he even worries if he did something wrong. So this interpretation could imply that while other grown-ups lose their eyes for other people, only thinking about themselves and their own lives, and in a way losing touch for the supernatural world around them, children and grown-ups that keep a part of their childlike nature can look outside of their circle and care for others, to an extent where the pilot is stranded in a desert without anyone to save him, but still worries about a boy and his flower from outer space. In a way, both The Little Prince and Alice in Wonderland tell us about the open-mindedness of children and how they have an appetite for knowledge. They get to engage with the invisible secret mysteries of the universe, since to them a talking flower makes as much sense as having to take off your shoes to put on different shoes while entering a house. A child lacks the fundamental knowledge of an unfair world with nonsensical rules that will turn you into a grumpy nihilist. They still have a sense of wonder, and as so have the key to understanding true happiness. But as we can see in both stories, not every grown-up is unhappy and narrow-minded. The pilot and Alice's sister both want to know more about the adventures of their companions, and it makes them wonder too. Now let's take a look at the Let Me In MV and compare the 2 stories. So first of all, the most obvious reference. The pilot and the prince meet in a desert. Haseul and her little prince meet in a snow desert. In Haseul's MV there also is a crashed plane, but Haseul didn't crash it into the desert, at least from what we know. Also, the lyrics of the song do seem to fit the story of the little prince, since the rose forged into the life of the pilot and into his heart, mirroring the lyrics and the MV, in which the boy pops up after Haseul sings about the loved one forging into her heart. The moon rises, I eventually become you, we so different us two, while we see the plane appear. Now, we see a lot of diamonds featured in this MV, and while there's no clear parallel to the story of the little prince, I'd like to suggest that the diamonds in this MV might be a symbol for the roses. We see a lot of diamonds in the MV. They are nothing special to Haseul, who at the end of the MV has her pockets full of them. But just like the little boy learns that all of the flowers in the world could not replace his one special rose that he loves, Haseul cannot replace the boy who is like a diamond to her with some diamond she picks up from the dirty ground. A diamond also is a symbol for innocence, light, beauty, and of course, true love. Since Haseul is one of the members who actually sings the lyrics in the MV, it seems like she really means what she's saying. Like, she sings about a boy and how she is his girl. So Haseul, just like the little prince, misses her boy a lot and wants to be close with him, since her love belongs to him. They have this unique kind of relationship. Also, in some fairy tales, gemstones are used to signify that the story plays out in a special magical place. So it's just another hint at the connection between the fairy tale and the MV. Next in the MV we can see a paper plane, or rather throughout the whole MV we can see paper planes. They are a symbol for childlike imagination, since children like to make paper planes and imagine them being, well, planes, which is showing the magic of having a childlike mind. They are also used to symbolize creativity, optimism, and the obvious communication. In this MV, I'm guessing that it symbolizes all of the above. It's again a reference to the story of the little prince, since Haseul has a childlike mind in the way the pilot has one. She is trying to communicate / reach out to her boy. And even though the song and lyrics seem to be sad, I feel like the song also has some optimism in it. Just like the little prince having to drink poison seems like a bad thing, but turns out to be his only saving grace. Haseul shooting the boy in her MV and singing about how she needs the boy is not necessarily a bad thing. We can see Haseul in red, while the boy is shown a lot in blue. But sometimes the boy is symbolically shown as a bird, and then the screen turns red, which looks just a little bit like movie tape being burned. So this could be a sign of rebirth. Haseul's assigned animal is often thought to be a dove, but that's not necessarily true. In the carol, her bird is blue, and on the map in Girlfriend it is blue as well. I think her assigned animal being just a bird, without any kind of confirmation which one, could be because her animal is a phoenix. A phoenix is a mythical animal that after dying is rebirthed out of its ashes. It burns itself and becomes new. The little prince had to be bitten by the poisonous snake to return home. He had to burn to ascend to his planet, since his body is too heavy to take with him. And the boy in Haseul's MV has to be shot to be reborn. And Haseul cannot find his body. The only thing left of him is a white bird. So instead of being either or, she becomes something new, having merged her girlish and boyish sides. Now I just have to quickly throw this in here, because I just thought about this. But these scenes of the boy being in almost complete darkness also makes me believe that the boy came from Middle-earth to meet Haseul. Remember how Middle-earth is dark and desolate before the Odd Eye Circle members awaken their Odd Eyes and shape Middle-earth to their likings. And since the little prince goes to Earth just to land in the desert, which is desolate and bleak, I feel like this is another reference to the story of the little prince. And so this little prince who landed in Middle-earth finds his pilot next to a crashed plane. Also, remember how we never get to see people around the members when they're in Middle-earth? And Haseul throughout the MV is always shown alone. There isn't even a driver in the yellow car. And this yellow car also appears in the Girlfriend MV, which also plays out in Middle-earth. And if you think about it, she is the only member that is truly alone in her MV. The 1/3 members are on Earth, surrounded by other people, and by their members. Yeojin and the Odd Eye Circle members are shown with backup dancers, and Cherry has Kimlip and Jinsul in her MV, and Y are also featuring in each other's MVs. Only Haseul is all alone and only meeting a version of herself. And at the end she is truly all alone in a snowy desert holding a bird in her hands, like Go-won holds the feathers in the X2X teaser. I hope this makes sense. At the end of the MV, Haseul finds her boy and runs towards him. While her diamonds fall out of her pocket, she doesn't really seem to care since she has just found her one unique diamond, the boy. The unique diamond is the boy. So we hear someone say something in French, which can be roughly translated into "I don't even know where to begin." This could be a memory of Haseul, of the little prince boy starting to tell her about his crazy adventures in outer space. Then Haseul looks at the boy and shoots him with one of the diamonds. And again the red effects are used, probably to show us that this is not death, but rebirth for the boy. He falls down just like the little prince after getting bit by the snake. And now both the boy and Haseul are singing the lyrics with a smile on their faces, which would be kind of weird if the boy wasn't sent back home, but instead died and turned into a bird. But yet again, I feel like the bird is a symbol for rebirth. It is also shown to us in the last scene of the MV, in which the boy is seen again and sings the last lyrics of the song, indicating that he is not with Haseul anymore, but still alive. In the end, the lyrics change and we hear the boy's perspective for the first time. The lyrics change from "the girl is the boy's girl" to "the boy is the girl's boy. The girl is the boy's wish," as we see the dead bird in Haseul's hand and the boy alive in the black void singing the last sentence. To me, this kind of indicates that Haseul freed the boy. He, for the first time in the song, gets to speak his own mind, and also if we look at the lyrics thus far, that indicate that the boy and the girl are two sides of the same coin, resembling each other and becoming one. Then this also indicates that even though Haseul shoots this side of herself, she has already become it, or merged with it. It is also interesting because it indicates that both the girl and boy Haseul have the same feelings for one another. The title of the song and the description both point into the direction of the little prince and Haseul being one, i.e. the boy and the girl are two sides of the same coin. They are parts of the same person, in a way referencing the story of the little prince, in which the prince could be a figment of the pilot's mind, who has not yet lost his childlike nature to wonder and perceive the supernatural. Or how the rose and the little prince have such a strong bond that they don't feel whole when they are not together. Another interesting way to look at the MV is through the eyes of Haseul having mannish and girlish features. In her teasers, she is shown in London with short blonde hair, wearing a suit, and in Iceland with her long brown hair in a dress. The only other time mannish features are mentioned in the Loonaverse is with the Odd Circle members. Chaotic, a track that emphasizes Odd Circle's vocalist techniques. Thus, you can feel Odd Circle's unique charm, as they can express their music to be mannish. This could mean that the side of Haseul that is shown in the form of the blonde boy could be the side of Haseul that is childlike, man-ish, that can see oddness and supernatural things. And Haseul then shoots him to get rid of her childishness, explaining why she is described as a mother figure to Yojin. So unlike the Odd Circle members, she succeeds in making her Odd Circle powers disappear. It also is kind of interesting since Haseul's boyish side has blonde hair, just like Kimlip and Jinsul. So this losing of her man-ish side could definitely indicate that she has lost a part of herself, in particular the part that makes her unique. But it also shows the struggle of a person that hasn't figured out their gender identity yet. Just like a lot of people one day start to resent what makes them unique and try to fit in, Haseul does so as well, and tries to hide her otherness and has to decide between being a boy or a girl, and nothing in between, so that she is just like any other person that fits into the binary. She doesn't want to stick out, so she has to suppress one side of herself. So after writing this script, I also had some interesting conversations with some orbits on the ARTMS Discord, but after talking in particular to Benji005, I wanted to talk about their perspective as well, since his perspective fits in really well with the story of the little prince. So in Let Me In's lyrics, Haseul sings, "Having come to resemble you, having been tamed by you, a girl of yours only," and I'm sorry for my bad pronunciation, but basically, Kim Tilida is a verb used to describe taming in the official Korean translation of The Little Prince. In the novel, taming is less about domesticating a wild animal and more about establishing a meaningful relationship. The little prince meets a fox who asks the prince to tame him. The prince doesn't know what taming is, so the fox explains that taming means to establish ties. To me, you are still nothing more than a little boy who is just like 100,000 other little boys, and I have no need of you. And you, on your part, have no need for me. To you, I am nothing more than a fox, like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, then we shall need each other. To me, you will be unique in all the world. To you, I shall be unique in all the world. The last line is one of the most famous quotes of the novel. The fox explains that putting in the effort and time to emotionally connect, understand and support one another is the basis of an everlasting, irreplaceable bond. That is taming. So what is super cool is that at YYY's session of 2018's Loona Studio, it opened with this quote, Haseul. If you come at 4 in the afternoon, I'll begin to be happy at 3. Chuu. That's a quote from The Little Prince. This quote comes from the fox shortly after the prince begins taming him. It's like Loona were acknowledging how their relationship with Orbit is one where they tame each other. Now, let me go off for a minute. So we all know that the Loonaverse can be interpreted in 100 different ways, and not everyone will like every theory. So, this theory is a little off the rails, but I still like to talk about it, so I'm going to share it with you. This is a little crazy, but I just thought about this. The boy in the MV has blonde hair and is seen in this black void for most of the time. What if this is a symbol for Vivie? What if Haseul was the one to free Vivie from Eden? Remember that when we see Vivie as an android, she has pink hair, but as a human, she has blonde hair, like in the new MV. And just like the boy in the Little Prince story had to leave behind his body to exit Earth and to get back to his home planet, maybe Vivie had to leave behind her body to exit Eden. Maybe this is why she isn't a human on Earth, and maybe this explains why Haseul is the one that is featured in Vivie's solo and on her album cover. The MV has a lot of rebirth symbolism, and we also see the boy sing the last few lyrics. Seemingly he is alive and he even smiles, so it could be that he is grateful that Haseul helped him to be reborn. And looking at it from another perspective, where does Haseul meet Chuu? In a black void space. Yeah, we see the building that Eve was in, but isn't Eve known to be able to travel through realms as well? So maybe Haseul runs late to the Christmas party because she felt someone enter the void, or someone entering the void makes Haseul teleport there? Who knows? But it is definitely interesting how these scenes mirror each other. And if we think about it, every member of YYY has an assigned fruit. And I've been theorizing about who has the cherries assigned to them. But while looking through my 1/3 albums, I thought about something. Lemons. In particular lemonade. In the teasers for Loossemble, we all wondered why Gowon has a lemon in her teaser and wondered if they would get new assigned fruits. But I feel like the lemon was already assigned to someone. Vivie. Vivie in the Love and Live MV does not drink the lemon juice pack the members give her. These juice boxes are even featured in the photo book. It feels quite obvious that she does not drink them because she is an android. But if we think about it in a more symbolical way, it could indicate that unlike the YYY members, Vivie never ate her assigned fruit. She never opened her eyes to the unfair world of Eden and never rejected it correctly. She now is an android and is totally unable to correct her wrongs. She is utterly unable to open her eyes now, since she already fell from heaven and now is trapped in this artificial body. And if we believe that Vivie is the boy in Haseul's MV, it makes sense that after her timer runs out, she is a human again. Remember how she had to be shot to exit Eden, and now she has to die a second time to correct this and reject her past, like YYY had to do. Vivie is kind of like the reverse of Eve. Eve sings about a new life. I mean, after all, it is her song title. She always believes in a better future, and when she sings about being willing to get closer to the sun, flapping of the burnt wings, only then I learned my new days, all my life by my life, take a look at me now. And who do we see looking at Eve? Vivie. She had to reject her past and look forward to becoming a human again, instead of being turned back into the human she was previously, and Eve takes her as an inspiration and does so herself in order to exit Eden. This is just my big little conspiracy theory of the Loonaverse, but honestly, I always wondered why the Love and Live MV has so much yellow in it, but well, maybe, just maybe, it is lemon themed. Maybe it has more to offer than we thought. I mean, the song has love in the title. Maybe Vivie had to love in order to live. Maybe Vivie is the partner of Chuu. Chuu had the positive Y, while Vivie would have been her negative X. And this would also make sense in a way, since all of the emotions have two sides to them, and every chromosome has another side to it as well. It just always felt weird to me how there are 3 positive emotions assigned to the members, i.e. Eve with faith, Chuu with love, Go On with hope, and only one with a negative emotion, i.e. Olivia Hay with anger. What if I was actually onto something? Let's just imagine Haseuls has the cherries assigned to her and Vivie has a lemon assigned to her. This would mean that 3 positives with 2 rose family fruits, apple and strawberry, and one that is not, i.e. pineapple. Then 3 negative emotions with 2 rose family fruits, a plum and a cherry, and one that is not, the lemon. And that could mean that every member has their partner, like Eve Y is paired with Haseuls X, for example. It would just make a lot more sense to me since Eden is obsessed with perfection and symmetry. I would also like to add a lot more to this theory, but I feel like this should maybe be its own video, or else I'm going to talk more about this theory than the Let Me In MV, so stay tuned for this. So till next week when we look at another MV and another fairy tale. Stay tuned for that, and if you liked the video you can like and subscribe. And if you have anything to say about the crazy theories that were featured in this video, you can write a comment and I will probably answer. Thanks for watching.